Let's go. Hello, 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 beautiful souls. Welcome back to Get Your Shit Together podcast with Yana Kasperczak. And today you're tuning into another incredible episode of our special series, Your Journey of Becoming, where real women share their messy, their unfiltered middle part of becoming who they're meant to be and not the highlight reel that you would see on Instagram or now even on YouTube, talking about the real thing. Because the truth and the reality is that your dream life does not start when everything is perfect. It actually starts when you have had enough of playing small and you finally decide once and for all to go for it all the way in, and you decide to go from no more surviving, and you go and decide to finally live and thrive. So grab your coffee, let's dive in, because today I'm joined by Niomi Hurley, who is a transformation coach. She's subconscious healing advocate and the host of Catching the Octopus Podcast, helping women break free from old programming, reconnect with their self-worth, and stop fixing themselves long enough to finally become who they truly are. So, Naomi, I love starting off this series with a question, because this is Get Your Shit
Okay.
Together podcast, right? Where we don't do
Yeah.
none of the surface level kind of shit. We do the raw, true, and authentic kind of approach in conversations.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know, when did you realize that the life that you were living wasn't actually yours and begun to get your shit together?
Hmm. You know, I think I felt it a few times, but it wasn't until my marriage and my husband said to me that he no longer wanted to be in the marriage, in a conversation that we had, that I realized all of the things that I had foregone or put off or put to a second space
Mm.
for that contract, that I then started questioning and going, why did you do all that when someone could just pull the rug out from under it? And I don't want to take away from the importance that some people put on marriage, because each and every person has their own views. But that really started a change in me from my perception on everything, not just matrimony and the state of that, but the whole of society, the programming, all the things, because that was my desire, was to get into a point where I had the marriage, the kid, the house,
Yeah,
the dream
the
in
program,
in
yeah.
the air quotes there. Yeah, because that's what I was programmed to do. And then I realized, well, what do you want to do? And that's kind of when the shift really happened.
Yeah, no, that's honestly, I feel like this is going to be something that every woman that's listening to will resonate, where there's that one thing that happens that I refer to it as that fantasy bubble that we all have gets burst.
Mm,
Like the fantasy of what we fantasize our life will be like when I meet the right person, as if there is one right person for us, right? I believe that there's many right people, just a matter of both need to be working at it and wanting to work at it, but working at it starts with working on yourself first and
yeah,
foremost. So that
yeah,
fantasy of like what that life will be like when I meet that man and get married and have a white picketed house with a white picketed fence and have 2.5 kids and a dog, or maybe like a labradoodle or some kind of special dog, and what that perfect picture looks like. And then one day, as you said, like the rug gets pulled from underneath, and all of a sudden, like you gotta figure out how you're gonna get up and where you're gonna get up, because now the rug is gone.
yeah. And I think I probably didn't choose in alignment as I should have, because at that point obviously over life you change, and over life I changed, and we probably did fall out of alignment, which probably wasn't helpful. And I think coming into, so I started my business a couple of years before that and left the big corporate world, the safety of a nice little
Yeah.
income to
Hmm.
be able to go into entrepreneurship. And I think that put pressure on the relationship as well. But I think, coming out and going into the entrepreneur world, that did start a little bit within me of going, well, hang on, what do I really want? But that moment of my whole perception of what my future looked like being shattered was enough to go, okay, now it's not good enough just to look at what you want. You need to create what you want. And that was kind of the shift that I had in that point.
Yeah. And that's something that I've heard a few times where a woman chooses herself, and in choosing herself, she chooses the adventure of entrepreneurship. And that's not
Mm.
for the faint of heart. And after their partners are not even aware of what it is or how to go about supporting her on the journey. And then, of course, at the same time, the woman doesn't always know how to support him on his journey, even helping him to understand, right? So it's literally like a dance and a tango. And if one is not willing to dance, then how can you dance with someone who's not? It's like dancing with a broom. And I'm sure we will watch Cinderella, seen Cinderella dance with the broom, and we know what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
Um, so often, sometimes it even comes from like left field when we're not even aware of something, and then surprise, here you go. And it's new information, and now you gotta digest and you gotta go through. And through this journey of life, I I have personally witnessed that I go through these different versions of myself where one version dies so the new version of me can be born, reborn. It's like death and rebirth that we all go through. And initially, like when the journey begins, when we begin this awakening of the soul, when the fantasy is shuttered, and another one, and we no longer can even pretend to go on in a way of everything is perfect, everything is peachy, right? So these versions of us that die so that new version of us, that new woman could finally live. What version of you that stands out to you the most that had to die so you can be reborn into the woman that you are today?
I, I thought I had a few along my life cycle. I do find that when I am in a space of healing or growth, I will often become sad about some of the things that have happened through my life. And not because I was there and experienced them. It's more like looking in as an observer. And I
Mm,
call it old gnomes. And I feel sad for the old versions of gnomes because she could only do the best she had with the information she had. Right. And
yeah.
some of the choices she made probably weren't the best choices, or that, well, obviously they were choices that meant to be made because they were, but some of the choices she made led her into situations that probably she didn't align with at that moment in time and created sadness or grief or trauma. And sometimes those influences came from the external environment as well that were beyond her control, especially a lot of the stuff from childhood. And so it was last year I actually went into a really deep healing space. So I had after my marriage ended, I spent at least 12 months just doing my own thing and then thought I might just try this dating thing, right? Not expecting anything serious, just to get out there and meet new people. And I ended up meeting this guy who I had almost an instantaneous connection with. And I don't know if anyone knows anything about twin flames, but I feel
Yeah.
like it was a twin flame connection, right? And that's romanticized because people are, oh, twin flame. Oh, no, 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 no. Twin flames are there to trigger some healing in you, I tell you,
Oh,
and some growth. So,
yes.
oh, it was terrible. So at the time, I was excited, going, oh, I found my twin flame. And then after he ended up discarding me because he was had an avoidant attachment style. So he just, as soon as he started getting really into it, he just was bang, this is it. And I was just in disbelief and I was shattered. And I had felt the happiest I probably could say I'd felt in my whole life. And I have a lot of spiritual beliefs. And I was kind of sitting there and I was just like, universe, God, source, whatever. your audience connects with. I was just like, how could you give that to me and then take that away? And I was just so disheartened. And then I ended up going into this really big, probably 3 months of just, oh, probably the lowest mood that I've had in my whole life. Like I wasn't looking to take my own life, but I had decided that if my life ended, so be it. Like I didn't have my
Yeah.
passion, I didn't have my drive. And it took me a while to get through, but then I started going, where is this? Doing the investigation, the curiosity, and it had come from my childhood abandonment wounds. So then going in and exploring them, and then the stuff that happened around me as a child, around the trauma there, and then how adults around me had participated because I was seeing things from a different perspective. And then having the awakening, a moment of going, oh my God, I wasn't protected like I should have been by the people that should have protected me. So then having to have conversations with those people. And so there's been some relationships that I'm in no contact with now because there was the way I perceive things, their belief system says that that's not what happened. So we had to come into this space where I had to say, well, look, thank you for sharing that with me, but my brain believes that this is the case. And so you need to give me some space while I process this, and I need to go through into this healing journey. And coming out the other end of that, although it was terrible at the time that I felt, I just had so much more love, compassion, and confidence and connection with self that, we all have this I'm not enough within us, even if it's little or it's big, we all have it. And I can confidently say my I'm not enough shrunk dramatically, which obviously is a game changer when it comes to life.
Yeah. No, that sounds like it was quite a journey. And I would actually love to hear if you are open to sharing it about those childhood abandonment wounds that you mentioned that you were talking about, what they were, so others can also see themselves in you and see what's possible.
So as long as I remember, I don't remember it starting. My grandfather, so my mum's dad, basically was inappropriate with me. I don't know if we need to give a trigger warning here to say
Yeah.
that we're talking about some stuff. And I ended up telling my mum and letting her know that it was happening, and she believed me. And I think that was really important for my
Yeah.
healing journey. However, now as an adult, I look at some of the circumstances around that. And in my mind, I believe that my mum knew.
Mm,
And I said to her, I said, I understand psychologically why you allowed that to happen. So but I don't as a parent, I don't get it. And I need
yeah.
to understand. Now, from her perspective in what she's saying, she's saying she never did know. She's sorry that it happened to me, but she didn't know. But just some of the ways that things had happened, some of the tones, some of all those things, in my brain, I can't shift that belief system. And so
Yeah.
I sit with that now. And, also in my childhood, my dad worked away, so he wasn't there all the time. My mum had quite a heavy alcohol dependency. So as the eldest, I had to step up into a lot of areas I probably shouldn't have. And so we discussed that as well. And at the end of the call, or at the end of the conversation with her, I thought it was best for me to actually cut off contact for a while. So
Yeah.
I know that that disappointed her, but I just needed to move away from that energy because I just didn't feel like I could trust it. I felt like I was deceived, even though I probably wasn't. But that was my feeling of it all.
Mhm.
And I acknowledge as well with the work that I do with the brain. So I've got a psych degree and I'm a hypnotherapist. So I work with the subconscious. So I understand that your brain will create its own story.
Yes.
And so that is how I did it. Say that to her. Look, even if you didn't, this is the story my brain has created, and I need to do healing from within that
Yes.
space. And there was a lot of things that happened in my life that led me to not be able to believe her when she said to me, I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, there's still other bits in my life that would actually make me think that you haven't always been truthful to me. And so, there's that doubt there.
No, I completely get it. It's like once that doubt is there, you got to do the work to get rid of that doubt or allow that doubt to become the truth and the reality, right? Because doubt needs to go one way or the other. It's either here or it's gone. And it takes time to process, to even understand. And
Mm,
as you said, the mind is not linear. Our memories are not exactly what actually happened. Our memories are full of holes, which means that our memories have also rewritten themselves throughout our life.
mm,
And some of these memories might not even make sense to us now as adults. And then many of them become our programs that are running the show. And now we're like, what the hell? Why am I responding and reacting this way? This never, like, what the hell, right?
yeah,
And this is where, for the sounds of it, your mom is giving you the space and is respecting you enough to you do you when you're ready, you know where to find me. If
yeah,
you are ready, I sense that you will be ready, being the mind coach, right? We know how to work through these things in a way that makes sense,
yeah.
right?
And it wasn't just the memories, I think, for me, but it was looking at some of the circumstances as well. So for me, I had multiple medical consultations around issues around that whole area, from what was happening. And kind of, you would say there was like physical trauma there. And so it got to the point where I was there so many times for so many problems that the doctors were talking about doing exploratory surgery, to see what was actually causing the issue, because they didn't understand why I was having so many issues, which then obviously would have impacted me for the rest of my life. Oh, getting a
Of
bit
course.
emotional thinking about that. And I don't know, as a parent, and there was other things as well. They would come, my grandparents would come to visit us, and when I would go to bed, he came into the bed with me. This is at 6 7 years old. And when I questioned mum about that, she kind of said, oh, it was to help you go to sleep. Yet even from a baby, I never had problems sleeping. So there's just
Mm,
all these little contradictions and all these little things that weren't just memories, but other
yeah.
information that came in as well that just doesn't make sense to me. And I'd hoped that that conversation with her could have given clarity to that. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Mm.
Even if there is denial on one part, that's something that that part will need to live with. But you being able to connect the dots and make sense of things that were happening and taking place, that's reality, right? Even and that's the other really like crazy and yet fascinating and awesome part of the brain and of our existence is that whatever it is that we're seeing, that we're experiencing, whether it actually happened or not, that is our reality,
Yeah.
right? And it would literally then our body will respond and live in that specific way whether it actually happened or not, our body and our mind believes it to be the truth. And now you got to be doing the work.
And that's the thing, like, we can't change what's happened. There has meaning behind what's happened, in that what I've given that,
Yeah.
and that is poor little gnomes, right? Like, I feel sorry and I get sad for her every time I think about what she had to go through.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I couldn't let that define the rest of my story. So, and I think that's sometimes the thing that people miss. I think there's not anyone that I've met that hasn't had some major trauma in their life of some kind. And some people might think that mine wasn't as severe as someone else's, right? We all have our own perceptions of what the
Yeah.
severity is, but it's real to me. And I think we miss the fact that some people will grip onto that and that becomes their identity.
Yes.
And there was no way I was going to let that become my identity. And so,
Yeah.
then as I went through, I've had a whole range of stuff. My first partner, I didn't marry him, but we were together for 9 years. My son was 6 months old when he decided that one of his work colleagues was worth a bit of attention and time. So he cheated on me. So that relationship ended. And then, went into my marriage. I was married for 12 years. I was with that guy for 15. He claimed that there was no one else. He just decided the marriage was not for him anymore. Yet within a year and a half, he's living with his boss. You know, his boss has moved in and her kids have moved in. So I've I've also had to look at my life and go, okay, why was I attracting people that were dishonest, that had the capability to be dishonest? So this was all unpacked in this little moment last year, right? When I was looking at the rejection and abandonment. I'm like, oh, so I normalized dishonesty or when people were being dishonest, and then I actually attracted partners of the same flavor.
Mhm.
And so sitting in now, what would I tolerate and what I wouldn't is like chalk and cheese. Like it's such a big stretch on what it was before. And look, I reckon perimenopause has probably helped as well. Let's be honest.
Of course, right? The cherry on top has to be put on there. Um, I agree with you, and I love how you brought in that some people make that their whole personality. And when something happens, that they become that experience, and that completely takes over their whole entire existence. And some people even get angry, and then that anger lasts a long time, and it becomes their personality as well. My throat is like starting to tickle on the left side. It's like dry for some reason. So I want to ask you another question.
Yeah.
What was the biggest lie you were living that felt normal until it broke you?
Hmm. There's a few of them. I think the biggest lie that I was living was that I wasn't enough. I'll be quite honest with you that when I was in the corporate space, I was masking. So I think as well I'm undiagnosed neurodivergent in a few different ways as well as coming through Perry, all your masks drop and you're like, oh, hang on, this is where I'm at. And so I spent a lot of time being who I needed to be. So it was conditioned to me from childhood. You know, like I said, with the dynamics in my family, I was the eldest. I had to step up. I had to be what I needed to be. Coming into the workplace, I worked my way up to quite a high level management position. So I was responsible for teams and a lot of accountabilities for the business. I had to be what I needed to be. I was married, be what I needed to be. Parent, be what I needed to be. And it wasn't until this last couple of years that I started becoming confident about being who I was. So even as I started my own business, I will step back. My corporate position was in HR and safety, and I was in the transport industry, so I was responsible for compliance auditing, quality management systems and safety management systems, incident investigations, lots of logical stuff. I really had to be logical and looked at things. However, I have a whole heap of little spiritual gifts that I never really overly tapped into. Now, in an incident investigation, intuition is gold, right? Because it helps
Yeah.
guide you where you need to be. So it was coupled, but it wasn't openly expressed or talked about. And so one of the things, even when I first started in my entrepreneurial space, is I wouldn't call myself a hypnotherapist or say hypnotherapy. I would say, oh, I get my clients into this like meditation kind of state, and then we work on subconscious programming.
Mhm.
So there was this fear of not being enough, right?
Mhm.
Oh, but hang on, if I say I'm a hypnotherapist, people will judge me. But over time, being able to heal that, I'll openly now say, I hypnotherapist, I'm an energy healer. I do all of these things that use my spiritual gifts. And that in itself is inspiring for people because I think in the corporate space, even though we don't talk about it,
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that have the same thing, but they're being who they need to be as well. Right? And so we're not finding our tribe. We're just like, oh, I just go to work and this is what I do when I go home, you know?
Yeah, it's in many ways even maybe many of these things begin like a hobby, something that we're
Mm,
curious about, something we're interested about, and usually it starts in childlike curiosity, because there's adult curiosity, then there's a childlike curiosity, and the things that we become the best at are the childlike curiosities that we follow,
mm,
where we really truly discover ourselves. And in discovering ourselves, we also get to those moments where enough is enough. And I would love to hear and know from you, when was your enough is enough moment when you knew that you either had to change or stay stuck like this forever?
Yeah, well, I did a program actually with Tony Robbins, and I
Mm.
did that towards the end of my corporate career because I knew I was going to be stepping into this. So what I was doing my psychology degree while I was still working, and I did my hypnotherapy course. It's like RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy. So
Oh yeah,
Marissa Peer is the founder of that. So I did
I
that
heard that.
program as well. So I had a huge load, right? I got a psych degree, I had my RTT, and I had my workplace stuff going on as well. It was pretty intense. And then because COVID had hit, the Unleash the Power Within event came online. And so I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So I was doing it from 10 o'clock at night till 10 o'clock in the morning. So I was doing it in US time from over here from Australia. And my initial objective for that was to learn some things that I could bring into my consulting business when I started it and
Mhm.
working with people and client bases. And there's one exercise that he does, which is like I think he calls it the Dickens method, where he gets you to look at something that's an issue, and then he gets you to look at the past elements that have led up to where that issue is, and then the future if you don't make a change. And he gets
Mm.
it's a really deep self-reflection accompanied by music and some really great, powerful words. And I realized at that point, if I stayed in the current belief systems I had, then I was never going to achieve what I was set out and meant to achieve. And that
Yeah.
was a pivotal moment. So it ended up helping me. It wasn't for everyone else, it was for me.
No, not everything is for everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Everything that we experience isn't even for ourselves. And then what you're talking about, that I call it an exercise. I learned it through IPEC coaching, that the program that I went through, and it's referred to as the pain and gain matrix. And at the
Right.
core, what it's talking about, oh, there's like an airplane really low to the
Oh,
ground flying over here. I don't know if you hear it or not. Hopefully not. But anyway, so
oh,
the whole point of this pain and gain matrix at the core is we only change when we have suffered enough. When the
mm-hmm,
pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, because regardless of what we do, we're going to experience pain. If we stay the same,
mm-hmm,
there's going to be pain. If we change, there's going to be pain. Suffering, of course, is optional, but most will end up suffering when they're staying the same. And we all need to get to the point where we've stayed the same long enough, where we say, enough is enough. And then we change. And then we choose that pain of change because it no longer is as painful, because recognizing what we lose if we don't do it, or also what we lose if we do it, right? Or we gain what we do it, what happens, and then going from that point on and finally choosing, deciding that journey of yours that you're on. And as you go on that journey, we lose. It's literally like a lost and found game. We lose things,
yeah,
we find
yeah,
things, we lose things, we find things. But we
yeah.
always lose things in our journey. And I'd love to hear, what is that one thing that comes to mind to you that you lost on your journey that you actually did not expect to grieve?
Yeah, see, I've lost a lot of things, but I don't think I've grieved them, so that's not going to work. As soon as you said that, I had an answer pop in my head, and I'm like, oh, I'm
See?
not really grieving that. And for me, that was I've worked very much in a masculine energy for a lot of my life. I make stuff happen. Like I'm the person with a
Yeah.
hundred hats, right? And I've got fingers in all these pies, and somehow, well, it's not somehow, I put the effort in, but everything always works out. Deadlines are always met, those sorts of things. And that when I shifted out of that corporate element and went, and more so actually the last year when I went through this big healing transformation and healed these childhood wounds that I had and really showed up with being enough, I now am able to switch that on and off as I need to. So
Mm.
before that, it was very hard for me to sit in silence. And maybe because I got some neurodivergence going on, my brain likes to be active, but that whole true feminine energy of flow and allowing things to come to me and attracting the right things. Although it was there, it was never really predominant in my life. That masculine energy was of get stuff done,
Yeah.
the force element. And so losing the need to always be busy. So I'm kind of going the other way with this answer. Sorry, I'm doing
Oh
the
no,
things that
that's
I'm really
perfect. I
grateful
love
to have
it.
lost. Okay. Losing the need to be busy all the time, losing the need to be doing things that get me external validation and recognition
Hmm.
because, I've got two undergraduate degrees, one in HR, one in psych. I've got a master's degree in organizational psychology. I'm doing a PhD at the moment. I've got leadership and auditing and quality diplomas. Like
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time in the academic space. I don't know if it was for me or for others trying to validate that I was worthy, that I had worth and value. And so having that stripped away, that need to be able to do that has been an absolute game changer. And now, like I said, I can turn it on and off when I need to. So this week, I'll be honest, this has been a week. I had some stuff going on.
Tell me
And so
more.
I have, so I've had to turn on the action part of me. And like I was, working till late multiple times this week. I'm up early, like it was in Australia. I was up at 3:30 this morning to do
I
this
know, right?
podcast.
I'm like
Yeah, which
dedication.
um, so today's I've got meetings and stuff I need to do today as well. Anyway, so today's going to be heavy, but I recognize then the rest time as well.
Mm,
Whereas before, I think I was on the verge of burnout so many times and just wouldn't accept it. And I just pushed through that it was affecting me physically. It was affecting my personal relationships.
mm,
That could have impacted as well on my marriage environment as well, because I needed to keep busy. I probably wasn't as aware of what was going on in that space, which caused potentially I wasn't serving my husband's needs the way he needed to at an emotional level. And so yeah, I think for me it was what I lost probably was more of a game changer for me. And I think that's sorry, now I'm rambling, but give me a moment. Just bear with me. Stay with me here. I think as being in my own healing journey and also helping others through that, as whether that be the therapist, the coach, the whatever we're doing, I often feel like people are looking to find themselves
mhm.
in some way, shape, or form. But really the key is letting go of things. We don't need to add more things in. We've got everything we need
Yeah.
inside of us. But whether it's from societal programming, trauma, whatever's happened in our lives has created this internal story within us or belief system that sometimes that's all we need to shift to be able to shine.
Yeah. I love that. That process of what you're talking about on the inside, that we have everything in the inside we really need. I uh, I call that approach of the same things I like to do in my house, which is decluttering and organizing. Because we
Yeah.
have more than enough, which means that we have a lot of shit that we don't need. And that's the shit that we need to declutter. We need to get rid of it. We need to let it go. But more often than not, when people are trying to let go of things and get rid of them, they forget to practice gratitude for the very
Yes.
fact that whether it was a physical object or was a mental object that you were carrying, that it had a purpose, it had a job, and it did a job.
Yeah.
And until we learn to be grateful for things, we won't be getting the things that we actually truly want, the things that we know we're worthy of until we practice that gratitude. And the way that we practice that gratitude is tuning in and tuning the world out and understanding ourselves in ways that we didn't understand before.
Yeah.
And often it's hard for people to do it on their own, but it makes all the difference when you have somebody there guiding you through it, or at least supporting you as like that the bouncing wall where you can just throw things and ideas at the wall and you see
Yeah.
if they stick.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And, working with clients, that's one of the things that I've definitely, I'm so with you on this gratitude thing. So any of the self-belief. So if we go into the subconscious, right, the subconscious grabs things along our lifetime and thinks, oh, we'll do this. Oh, that kept us safe. Cool, that's handy to keep doing. And so it sticks in us. And then it comes to a point in our life where we're like, oh, actually, now this is hindering me, not helping me anymore. But the
Mm.
subconscious doesn't recognize that because subconscious is like, no, no, this kept you safe or this kept you
Yeah.
protected or whatever it is. And so that's very much part of that process of letting those go. I actually say those words. I said, look, we have to be grateful for everything that's helped us in the past. And we actually do some gratitude exercises in that as we're releasing and letting it go, because it's important as well to have the right energy and frequency around that.
Yeah.
If you're letting something go and you're not actually letting it go with love and gratitude, then there's some, if we go into the end now, I'm going the energy perspective, it's very hard to cut the energy connection with that,
Mm.
because if we're still having some pain associated with it, the subconscious will be going, hang on, but you're telling me you can do okay without this, but there's still pain. I'm still feeling pain. No, 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 we need to keep this. You're
Yeah.
still not feeling safe. And so by doing that love and gratitude, it shows the nervous system, the subconscious system, like all of the body energy responses that, oh, it's safe to let this go now. And
Yeah.
we can be celebrating letting it go. So I love that you mentioned that. The gratitude is really super important.
Because without it, we don't really, manifestation itself won't work without gratitude. Let's put it that way. And
Yes.
manifestation, it's
Yes.
also, each and every one of us is a creator.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you use the word creation or creator or manifestation, all of them connect to gratitude. And gratitude that we also can feel sad and lost and confused and grateful at the same time. We gotta pick one feeling. And even when we're going through the hardest moments, we could pick and choose to feel gratitude, even in that moment, even if it's temporarily, that will be the anchor next time around when
Mm.
you're going through something. And it becomes easier and easier and easier to go through these challenging times and moments, because as we all age, we're all going to be losing either things, people, or even pets that we love. It's
Mm-hmm.
inevitable. And it's important to grieve those things. And that's why I like to ask that question, like, what do you grieve that you didn't expect to grieve? Because all the other things, like, that's normal, it's expected.
Yeah.
But often we forget there's other things that we grieve that we don't even realize that we're grieving.
Yeah. And the gratitude space as well. I mean, I know some people don't understand it, but even the stuff that happened to me as a child, I have gratitude for that.
Yeah.
And yes, it's painful. And yes, when I sit in it, it's horrible. And yes, what a horrible, horrible human. I mean, we went through the court system. Court system, for people that have done that, court system isn't set up for the victims of any sort of sexual or physical
No,
abuse,
it's not.
unfortunately, when it's a gender imbalance there. And so the judge actually said, I believe this little girl, I think it was about 8 or 9 at the time when it went through the court. I believe this little girl, but unfortunately, the way that the system's set up, I have to find him not guilty. And so I've had to live with that as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's amazing how many women that come in that I'm working with that have had unfortunately experienced something similar.
Yeah.
And so I have a way that I can help them now. And I can show them that there's light at the end of the tunnel if they can get through and process their healing. Every little thing that's happened to me that has created those lower vibrational emotions, or the grief and the sadness and the why me's and all of those sorts of things. Once I've moved past, I have to have gratitude for them, because this person that's sitting in front of you right now
Yeah.
is a culmination of all those experiences, and how lucky I am to have such a broad range of experiences to be able to pull from when I'm working with myself in healing or when I'm working with others, you know?
Yeah. I love that. It says a lot about the work that you have done on yourself, for yourself, that now those that choose to work with you will benefit as well. Because
Mm,
I can't even tell you how many coaches I've met that say they've done the work, but you can tell they have not done the work, and they end up doing more damage to their clients than good, because there's a
Yes.
lot of projecting and dumping and expecting that takes place where that's not what coaching spaces is all about. Here's the tools, here's the information. You do with them what you will. Nobody's going to
Yeah.
be holding your hand or telling you what to do or how to do it, guiding you, supporting you, yes, but not telling you this is the only way
Yes.
because it doesn't work. And in your life, um, I know throughout all of our lives, we're continuing to get our shit together all the time. And I would love to know, what does that actually, like getting your shit together in your daily to day life, actually look like for you?
That's a really good question because that's always evolving and changing, right? What that looked like
Exactly.
5 years ago was different to what it looks like today. Um, I think I'm really proud of where I've come with my enoughness. I'm really proud of where I've come with my accountability for myself and how I show up. Getting my shit together. You know, life will throw me something, an experience in the next 3 to 6 months, which will highlight the next area I need to work on to get my shit together. And I know that if I'm in a period where everything around me is going really well, and I don't have any major impacts from life, then I need to sit in that and appreciate and have gratitude for it because it's not going to be like this forever. Same as if you're in
Smell
the
the
throes
roses.
of it. Yeah. Same as if you're in the throes of it, right? There's this feeling of knowing, hey, I've overcome every bad day I've experienced. This can only get better. Right. So life's a roller coaster. It's going to have ups and downs. I suppose for me, I've tried to do the healing so that the ups and downs aren't so deep. When I'm down, I don't go so deep, but it still happens.
Of
And
course.
so even though I can't think of something in particular right now, I have no doubt that when the time is right, life is going to throw something at me and I'm going to go, oh, that's what I need to heal now. And then
Yeah.
I'll be working on that process.
Yeah. And that's more on like a deeper level of getting your shit together. But on a surface level, often the getting the shit together looks like making the bed in the morning, getting dressed at a certain time, waking up at 3:30 in the morning. Like for you, like hands up for you. I don't think I'd be up that early. Not even probably for Tony Robbins, just saying. But it's getting ready. It's being getting to places on time, if that's used to be one of the struggles, right? It's all those little things that we do on day-to-day basis. Even keeping the kitchen clean for most of us women that have a family that we have to feed. That also is what getting our shit together can look like on a mundane level.
Okay, on a mundane level. See, because I've got this like inner achiever in me, I kind of have the mastered a lot of the stuff, but probably getting my shit together. Maybe, oh, you really stumped me with this, haven't you?
I warned you. There's going to be at
Oh
least one
yeah,
that gets
and
people.
I'm the queen of self-reflection. So there's definitely something because I'm not perfect. Maybe try. I'm in my head. So this is the important part of the stories you create and the way you set yourself up. So in my head at the moment, everything that I think of is something I do well. Now, that has not come easy in life. I've had to program my brain to do that and find that for
Yes.
me. And so now when I've got this question, it's like, oh, I have to think of things that aren't going too well that I need to, that I need to improve in. Um,
Maybe it's something that
you
continuously
know,
shows up on your to-do list over and over and over again, and it's maybe not getting done.
it's my desk. I just looked at my desk and it's my desk. There's too much clutter here. It needs to be tidied up. And I've been thinking it for the last 3 months and I just haven't got around to it. So that procrastinating on my desk, that's the thing
Yeah.
that I need to do. Yeah.
Oh, that's gonna be solved in like 5 minutes. Chances are, I feel like if you're an achiever, as a
Yes.
performance coach, I know after we're done this, you're gonna be getting that desk done, so
Yeah.
you can have the check mark.
Yeah, and because it's so cluttered, and this is works for our mind as well, right? In the way
Yes.
that we work, because it's so cluttered, I actually don't have the optimum space to operate a lot of the time. So I have to move things out of the way to be able to get to other things. Whereas
Mm,
if it was optimum, it would just be everything at my fingertips, and it just makes things a lot smoother. So yes, thank you for highlighting that for me. I'll
Oh,
get
no
on to that.
problem. No problem. In my mind, I also like to design things. So in my mind, I'm like, if that was me, I'd be designing some little structures on a table where everything can be nice and organized. And at the bottom of the table on the side, so there'll be a whole entire setup. So I have
Yeah.
everything at my fingertips as well. It makes it so much easier.
Yes, yes, it does. Convenience. So I often talk in talking about that, I often talk about setting future gnomes up for success. All
Yeah.
right. So how can I set future gnomes up for success? Does that mean that, when know that something needs to happen, when I know I'm taking the dogs to the park, I have my backpack in the back that has the dog leads in the ball throwing thing in it, and it's all just in a backpack. So when I get to the dog park, pull that out of the car and I put it on. So instead of running around in the morning to get that before we go down.
Mhm.
So I'm very much about, yeah, what can I do in this moment that will take me not much time, but I know that it's going to set future gnomes up.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And that's the
that's
desk.
perfect. It's like I know many people will talk about having their emergency bag ready.
Yeah.
Right? So having different types of quote unquote emergency bags ready for you going with a dog, you have that ready so you don't have to run around looking for things. You're preparing for the future Naomi or gnomes, as you said, for the next day, for the next week. So that way she doesn't need to be worrying about what to do and how to do it. It's time to go. You get your things and you're out the door without stress.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
go
oh, sorry, I
on.
was going to say, and doing that when you're not stressed, when you do have a bit of free time, just spending that little bit of time prepping for future gnomes. Yeah, the amount of times I've just gone, oh, thanks, past gnomes, I owe you one. Like, and off I go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can also be as simple as preparing what we're going to have for dinner tonight.
Yeah.
That used to be the question, one of the first questions my husband would ask when we're talking in the morning as he's driving to work at like 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, dude, I don't even know what's going to be for breakfast yet, okay? So, but because of that question, that led us into meal prepping for breakfast and lunch. Now we just have to think about dinner.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then that question first thing in the morning is actually appropriate because I don't have to think about lunch. I don't have to think about breakfast. All I can think about is dinner because everything else is already prepared for, and it saves so much time and energy, especially for me,
Hmm.
where the last thing that I found myself wanting to do, especially when I began working from home in my entrepreneurial journey, was to prepare myself breakfast, to think about what I'm going to have for breakfast and then prepare it and do it. And then the same thing for lunch. It just became like those were the things that were causing me anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And when that preparation is done ahead of the time, the stress is gone. It makes it so
And
much simpler.
we as women in the patriarchal society we live within, right? Women and men have their roles in what they do, and I believe the system's is not set up for either of our success unless you're at the top of the hierarchical chain. But anyway, that's a whole nother podcast we could do.
Oh yeah,
But
or two.
but but part of the woman's role in what we're conditioned to do is to look after people around us.
Yeah,
Right? We're,
caretakers.
we're
Yeah.
conditioned in that space to be caretakers. But we miss that. What about looking after ourselves? Like we would do that for, I would do that for my kids, knowing that they've got to go do this. I would get their shoes ready for them, or I'd have this on the table so it was easy for them to grab. I've preempted for a lot of my life for the people around me to set them up for success. And it was my actual sister-in-law that once at one moment goes, oh, I need to do this for future, for my future self to set myself up for success. I'm like, why aren't I doing that? Why is my priority everyone else's success? So that was an interesting perspective
Yeah.
change, and that's why I ended up jumping into it. I'm like, well, if it's good enough to try and set everyone else up, good enough to set me up as well.
Right, exactly. And that is definitely a good system to follow. So anybody who's not following it, start following it, creating it. It's not as complicated as we think.
Mm,
It's
yeah,
so simple.
100%.
It's literally just what do you want to do tomorrow? What do you one thing you want to accomplish tomorrow? that will bring you closer to where you want to be. Something that moves the needle is what I like to call it. And when it moves
Mm.
the needle, then I used to also stitch and do embroidery. Just it just keeps my hand busy, right? Just for
Yep.
fun. And then the more that we stitch, the more that the whole entire picture that comes in front of us, that we can see exactly what we're doing, what we're building. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there I am. Yeah. So for the women that are listening right now, and there's going to be at least one that's going to be feeling stuck in that dreaming and doubting and overthinking phase. What would you
Mm.
say to her that might finally get her to move that she is not ready to hear?
I think be kind to yourself.
Mm,
It's one of the major things. So I have this little theory in my mind of feel, deal, heal, and deal. And so when major life things come at me, I sit in the feel. But during sitting in the feels and the emotions, like becoming curious and all the things that you need to do to then move through the healing phase, is just being kind, because there's a lot of times where we blame ourselves for the people we chose. I went through that, two failed relationships. I have two children with two different fathers. And if you'd come to me as a teenager, the stigma against that, I didn't think I was judgy, but I feel like I would have judged someone that had two kids from two different dads, right? I'm
mm,
not the person that fits that stigma. But that's just the way my life has come out. So I needed to be kind to myself. Hang
yeah,
on, this is the way that life happens. And then moving into a space of going, okay, now that we've actually explored all these and we've looked at the emotions and now we're looking at the cognition, what is it? Let's become curious about where we need to go moving forward and what we need to do to be able to heal whatever that's triggered in us, whether that is I'm not enough, whether that is rejection or abandonment, whether that is whatever. And then at the end, I've got the deal. That's where you just got to pick yourself back up, pull on your big person pants, and just get on with it, right? Like, there's got to be, and it comes in waves sometimes. There's got to be the time where you do need to sit in whatever you're feeling
yeah,
and be kind with yourself while you're doing that. But you will know when it's becoming too much.
yeah,
You will know that moment where you're like, hang on, now this is actually consuming me and it's taking me away from my important relationships, or it's taking me away from a goal that I had, or it's taking me away from the things that I would enjoy in life.
yeah.
And I think that's the point where we need to go, okay, what actions then can I take to start moving back into that space?
Hmm. I love that. And then, like you said, be kind to yourself. That's what many forget to do for themselves, to themselves, instead of continuing to beat themselves up and punish themselves and literally be the biggest bully that they can be to
Mm,
themselves. The way
mm-hmm.
there was one phrase I heard once, and all we need to do, some things that we hear, we need to hear them once, and then it's like, oh, okay. If we if you treated someone the way that you treat yourself outside of you, like a person, you would get locked up. You would be in
Yeah.
prison. But yet you do that to yourself. And this is where we end up trapping ourselves into our own mental prison where we cannot seem to get out because we keep punishing and punishing and punishing ourselves and forgetting to be kind.
I've got another example for you here. Like when I watch a movie, I like to sit down. I like to, eat salt and vinegar chips and popcorn and stuff. But with the salt and vinegar chips, you know how like they're really like
Mhm.
tingly on your tongue and those
Yeah,
sorts of things. Now, when I talk about that, a lot of people get extra saliva come into their mouth. I don't know
yeah,
if that worked for you, Yana, right?
yeah, of course, because then
So
I'm tasting it.
yeah, you just taste it. So my words created a physical response in your body. Imagine how much impact your words have on your body.
Yeah.
And so we need to be careful what we're allowing our experience to have. We're not a bitch. We're not
No.
stupid. We're not idiots. We may have made a silly decision. And so what I say is look at the impact of those words and shift them up where you can. So I will kind of, something will happen and go, oh my goodness, what a silly Billy. Right. So if you're wired to have that kind of self-criticism, make it fun.
Yeah.
Don't make it damaging, you know?
Yeah. And we're in tune to hearing our own voice, and our own voice is the most powerful voice we can actually hear. And
Yeah.
most people don't even want to listen or hear their own voice. Because when we hear it, when you record your voice and you hear it, you don't hear the same way you normally hear it when you're speaking. And I remember the
Yes.
first time, I don't know how old were you the first time you heard your own voice from, like, let's say
Uh,
a phone or a video camera or something like that.
Well, I used to actually self-record myself on cassettes. That's showing my age now.
Oh yeah,
When I
me
was
too.
really younger. I used to talk to myself into cassettes and pretend I was like a radio host and I was announcing things. Interesting that I now do podcasting,
Right? It's
right?
a different kind of radio host that you do on your
Yeah.
own and you
The little
decide.
Yep, the little child in me knew what brought me joy. And yeah, and I do remember the first time I listened back, I'm like, no, that's not me.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like a stranger's voice.
Yeah,
But once we get used to it, then it becomes the music to our ears. And that's one thing I learned over the years when I began my healing journey is somehow miraculously begun also I was chose to do live videos. That's a whole different
yeah.
conversation there. And getting past my voice and then getting past watching myself on camera as well
Mm,
without judging and like you said being kind to myself that was really hard and I
mm,
realized that it was making me feel like what you were talking about like the vinegar and the saltiness it's like the sourness it was making me feel like that sour and
yeah,
little by little the pain becomes the suffering
yeah,
and we find suffering in the pain when in reality those two are separate. There are people who live in pain but they don't suffer with it, and then
yes,
there are those who are living with pain and are suffering beyond what they believe they can actually do and suffer.
yeah,
So thank you for sharing that. The last question I want to ask you is what part of yourself are you
yes.
finally allowing to exist without trying to fix, hide, or prove anything to anyone anymore?
I think that's just me. I'm very blessed and grateful to have had the experiences I've had that have led me to the healing that I've done, that have given me this enoughness to just know that me as I sit here right now is exactly perfectly to be. Just being in authenticity. And I think for me as well, like I said before, I used to hide a lot of my spiritual gifts. I will openly speak about them now. Like one of the things I do under hypnosis is past life regressions for people. And I know that there's a lot of people that don't believe that that's possible, and that's fine. That's your belief system. I also know that there's some people that might have religious sections that have belief systems as well around that not being coming from a godlike spirit.
Mhm.
That's fine. That's their belief systems. And so, what it gives to me though is when I do them, there's stuff like people have gone to different planets, right? When they've done past life regressions, I had one friend say to me, have you ever had anyone go in the future? And I'm like, I was about to go, no, that can't be happening. I went, oh, hang
Yes, I
on.
can.
Time's only relative here, right? Sure enough, next
Exactly.
client I have tells me they're in the future. And so it has been such a beautiful way to expand my belief systems and what I think is possible and really tap into my spiritual gifts. And that wouldn't have been possible for me if I'd listened to what everyone else thought I needed and what I should be doing. And I
Mhm.
think that's the biggest gift that I've got is that I get to be authentically, unapologetically me.
Yeah. And you get to work with people that get you, that
Yeah.
understand and that are open to all of your gifts, which allows them to open up to their own gifts as well.
Yeah, and even with my one-to-one sessions in the, therapy coaching space, people go, "Oh, I want to work with you." And I've got a process where people have to book a discovery call, then they jump on a call with me, and then we book book in for a time just to make sure we're energy aligned. Because if you're not energy aligned, then there's 100 other people you can work with, right? I don't,
Mhm.
but I do that as, again, if they really want to work with me, then they will. And even with my marketing, I'm never pushy. I'm never forcing anyone because I kind of like feeling like I want to work with the people that are the people I'm meant to work with, not just do it to bring in the cash.
Yeah,
So yeah, and that has been really, really good too, because then when I work with clients, I'm getting great results for one, because they want to be there and we connect energetically.
yeah,
And two, I get more joy out of it rather than making it something that has to bring me an income, right? I do it because I
exactly.
do it for the joy. Yeah.
Doing it for the joy, doing it for the passion of it, and not
Yeah.
for the money of it. And that's my favorite approach to building my business as well, and a lot of women, because honestly, we don't live for the money. Money is one of those things that, because if we really pause and think about the people, thinking of a person that we love the most, that has passed away and was no longer here, how much money would we spend on just having 5 more minutes with that person? We'd probably give
Yeah.
everything we can just to spend 5 more minutes with that person. So then that means all
Mm,
of a sudden, money doesn't have any power and it doesn't
yeah.
bring no one back. So what does? What does and
Mm,
what can is going within and tapping into the universe, the planet, and connecting with that future, with that past, and with at the same time, those who have passed, where the time is not linear. It's not straightforward as we see it. Even now, it's not linear, straightforward. It's all over the place. Everything is happening all at once because um I know there's many have asked that question. I definitely have asked that question. Whereas like when people pass away or animals pass away, how can you still connect with them on the other side while they're also reincarnated and living in another body? And you can't because they're all living at the same time. They exist all at the same time. It's not in the past, it's not in the future. Everything is happening in the now only. And it's that
mm.
concept that takes a minute to even like digest and make sense of it. And at one point, it didn't even make sense to me at all. And then at another point, now it makes sense to me in a way that sometimes it's even hard to explain. It's just one of those inner knowings that we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know we all have inner knowings. I'd love to know if you have an inner knowing that you've struggled to even put into words, either for yourself or for others, that comes to mind for you.
Yeah. So inner knowing is my spiritual gift. So I don't see things. I don't have the clairvoyance. I don't generally hear things. So I don't have clairaudience. I have clairsentience. I just
Mhm.
know. And so my inner knowing, so this is something that I have an inner knowing of, and maybe it will come through, is at the moment in our world, it is disheveled geopolitically, with the way that it's shifting. People that don't respect human rights are becoming more vocal about the things that they feel like they want to take away from people, whether that be because of your gender, whether that be because of your belief systems, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And I, I actually, when there was a particular politician that was elected in, and I'm not even in the same country as them, and I cried when that happened because it just felt unfair and unjust to me that someone of that character, with all the things that I had learned about them, would be someone that they would allow be in a position of power like that. Okay. And so it saddened me so bad. And I thought, what is happening to the world? And then I looked at my own experiences and I'm like, people haven't been held accountable where they should be, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, I'm getting a bit emotional talking about this. But recently I've had this inner knowing that this is all purposeful, right? before we can actually create change in something, it needs the other thing needs to crumble. And this even goes with our personal healing journey, right? Like you said before, the pain needs to get too much, right? So then we create the change that we need to see. And that's what I envisage is happening in the world at the moment. The pain is going to get to a point where it's just too much,
Yeah.
and then it's going to fall away, and we can move into a space that we can go back into living in community, helping and supporting each other, and living like we're meant to do when we go back to our tribal essence, right? Enjoying life, not being in an office or being in a workplace from, from when it's, you leave when it's
Yeah.
dark, you come home when it's dark. Finding things that we can get that resource, our food resources and our shelter resources, and still enjoy the time we have in doing our hobbies or being in nature. Or anyway, it might sound a bit utopian, but I have this knowingness that we are heading there. And in the meantime, we just have to find our people and be there and sort of hold hands and grip and
Yeah.
and wait it out a little bit, and still be as vocal as we can against some of the stuff that is happening that just isn't right. It's not
Yeah.
right for humanity.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also have learned, I've gone through a period in my life where I just wanted to fix everything possible, everything that's essentially wrong with the world, which is my own perception of what I see that's wrong with the world. Others will see
Exactly.
different things that are wrong with the world. So
Yeah.
I was living in my own perceptions of what was wrong with the world, and I wanted to fix it all. And then there was something that was shared with me that allowed me to let go of control of all the other things and only focus on my own circle of influence. And the own circle of influence means that, for example, I'll just give one example. There was many, but I see that like the school system, no matter what country you're living in, is broken. And
Yeah.
the things, and there's so many things that need to be put in the system, even beginning with teaching kids how to self-regulate, teaching kids how to focus instead of telling them focus. You got to have a class on focusing and on mental health. You got to have that. My daughter just lost a friend over the weekend to suicide.
Oh,
Like that's
yeah.
insane. And she's going
Mm,
through things herself. And unfortunately, I'm not even
mm,
home to help her, so I can only do so much through the phone. And
mm.
and if these things were taught in school, then a lot would change. But that's not my circle of influence, which means I'm not in the school system. I can't influence it. I need to be in that circle to be able to influence it. But what I
To
can
them,
do
yeah.
is the women that I work with, many of them happen to be teachers, interestingly enough.
I was going to say that, yeah.
So that becomes my circle of influence where I can help them. And then based on their own perceptions and perspectives of what they see is wrong with the school system, which is again not going to be mine, it's going to be their perceptions, their things, that then they can do something about it because they are in that space, they are in that circle. Whereas for me, it's like me marching in with a white flag inside each and every school and saying, I'm here to savor you, right? To save you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everybody be like, great. Who the hell are you? And why should we
Yeah.
listen to you? You know what I mean? So, but those who are already there, they already know and they can do something about it.
We
So,
underestimate the power of the ripple effect, right? Yeah.
exactly. And that's a great word, a ripple effect, where my circle of influence starts from the outside of where I would want that wave of water to go to. And then
Yeah.
all the other places that, like, for example, this podcast, there's going to be people who will listen to it, who will take notes on it and do something about it, but we'll never hear of them.
Yeah.
We'll never know of them. And we would have made an impact by simply doing our radio show, right? Like what
Yeah.
you're saying
Yeah.
in the
Well,
cassette.
I do a park chat every morning. So I do between 4 and 6 or 7 videos every minutes of a video every morning on something that I think I feel like I want to share. Post it onto TikTok, post it onto Facebook, and Facebook, sometimes I get 2 or 3 likes, right? Lucky to get that. However, when I run into people in the street or in the community, they're like, oh, I love your park
Right?
chats. Yeah. And I'm impacting. Whereas on TikTok, different platform, a lot of the people in my circle don't see it, but my following has increased by 1,500 in the last month. Like I was 300 and now I'm 2,500. So yeah, it's just jumped up, and my likes went from like 300 to 10,500 likes. So that's finding a new audience on there as well that I don't normally have. And for me, it was just about the consistency. I had a message, I put it out. If it impacts positively one person, I've done my job. And like you said, you don't always see the fruits of your efforts, right? It's just knowing that you're showing up the best way you can.
Yeah, and we're in the end we're doing it for ourselves because this is something that we're passionate about.
Yes,
And it
yeah,
that shit shows through. And the right people
yeah,
will come and it will repel all the wrong people,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
There-
100%.
And then whenever there's trolls, the ones that are commenting and leaving bad things, that often means that you're moving in the right direction. Once you have haters, that means you're successful. And I've heard that
Yeah.
many times. I'm like, yeah, come on, bring them on. So thank you so much, Naomi, for sharing your journey so openly today. Go and check out her podcast, Catching the Octopus Podcast. Follow her on social media platforms. I will leave all the links and all of the things in the show notes below. And if this episode hit home, share with a woman who needs to hear it as well. And if you're ready to keep going, come hang out with us inside the Heal the Unicorn Facebook group where magic happens in there as well. Subscribe to this podcast to get your shit together podcast so you never miss an episode because just like this one, there are some that are being uploaded and dropping that are pre-recorded that you never get to see live that I normally do on Facebook. Until next time, keep showing up, keep becoming, and remember, you are not behind. You are not too old, you're not too young, and you're right on time. So thank you, everybody. Until next time. Bye.